Ladies, gentlemen, boys and girls, we're back here again to discuss the legacy of losers. Yet again, another attempt on Trump's life was attempted, an attempted murder, an attempted assassination by some of all things. And I pointed this out, eh? I pointed out that on top of the police, on top of the media, you had like the teachers, like the unregulated education system. And I'm not saying like every single teacher out there is just, against the student body, but it's like you take your kids to a public school, like 50% of the problem you get from, other people's kids, and the other 50% is the faculty. Like the curriculum, what they're teaching, how they talk about your kids behind your back and all that shit. And what once was like an institution that like demanded respect, right? Like I kind of miss the days when teachers, like, if you were fucking around, they just like fucking smack you or like straight up expel you and shit. Like they wouldn't fuck around. Now teachers are like getting in fist fights with kids. Teachers are like, getting fucking ridiculously attacked by kids. And like this is important because this is what they wanted, right? Like the teachers wanted the degradation of the education system to allow other out of country entities to enter into the nation, vote exceedingly in one way, at least for the first few generations, and then like repeat the process. So like there's probably like a bunch of Pakis and Sikhs who don't want to like, pay higher taxes or have like unlimited immigration, but like that you wouldn't know that because the new arrivals just be like, oh shit, man, my student visa, it's about to expire. It's about to expire. Yo, everybody's talking about Jaskarat Sidhu. He doesn't want to leave Canada. Fucking murder up a bunch of people. Like, yo, he's trying to like pretend like this is gonna go away and shit. And for all we know, it might. Yeah. Mark Carney's desperate for the votes because guess what happened? Not only did like their party get exposed for like the complete like increase of the price of living, the like transparent attempt to steal the vote in your own way, like favorably in your own like way, like it's most likely because it's like there are some Jewish people here, even though like the statistics say Jewish women exceedingly voted for liberals. Like there is like a sizable population here that will probably vote conservative and shit. Right? But that's besides the point, right? Like they're just gonna keep bringing more and more people in, and then putting them in the same situation, and then like they get exploited by their own kind, and there's no oversight to it. It only happens after the fact, like after people have lost like thousands of dollars, and these people either have made their money and could just put it somewhere, or they just paid the people off, or they just lose their money and then like the government gets it. Which I think like of those three, I think that's likely the most likely of the outcomes to exist because let's be honest, like if the Canadian government could do it, like tax your money even more, they would. But like it's so transparent how you have all these attacks on Jewish schools, Jewish synagogues. Even yesterday, no, yeah, yesterday. So today's Sunday. Yesterday at Bathurst and Steeles, I used to live there. There's a synagogue. I actually know this one really well because it's like it's basically where my house is. And yeah, they just guy ran up in the fucking front door. Meanwhile, by the way, I use the elliptical a lot, dude. I know when City TV is busting out the fucking cops with their assault rifles and shit, and they're bringing them downtown to make their presence known and all that bullshit. Meanwhile, the Jews gotta fucking fend for yourselves. Shit, man. Yo, what's the point of you bragging about all that money you got and all the like times you pay your taxes if you don't even get that level of protection because you don't vote a certain way, man. I If you voted a certain way, you would have gotten that governmental protection. But now you see that what I mean by totalitarianism, right? You're not allowed to vote a certain way. You're not allowed to not take the vaccines. You're not allowed to question this. You're not allowed to do that. Like it's just like the situation that's popping off in Russia, right? So in Russia, apparently there's this like model, and she lives out in Monaco. I think that's Spain, if I'm not mistaken. I don't really give a fuck. It's like some super like rich ass place to live. And then like she's like lightly criticizing, her government, even though like they're basically slaughtering Ukrainians and shit. Like, oh my god, like she's criticizing the lack of like ability to use Instagram. No, I'm not kidding around. You can't use any of these like American Western websites, and like even though she is posting on Instagram, which is ironic. Well, she lives in Monaco, right? But she's like saying, my fellow Russians, we can't use the Instagram, to my knowledge, right? And then like also how like there's all this problems happening in Russia, but Russia doesn't have like and this is so fucking familiar, eh? We have internal problems that the elected leader is supposed to solve, right? Whether it's immigration, whether it's internal, like, conflicts, whether it's displaced people, right? Due to like, natural disasters. Like right now we're having a flood in places in Ontario, Quebec. So yeah, yeah, but at least there's more of a response on the Canadian side versus the Russian side, which apparently there's nothing. Like apparently they had like some of the worst landslides known to human existence, something like 2.4 million people displaced, and there was no aid for them. And she's complaining about that. She's complaining about other like cities not getting power, infrastructure, and all that stuff, like crumbling, all that shit. And then obviously she gets called a whore. And she wasn't like, being like, Putin, you gotta stop this war in Ukraine, this is inhumane, or just like, the normal ass shit to say. It's like, oh man, the economy, the censorship, the Russians can't use Instagram. Yo, the legacy of losers, man. The legacy of losers. These fucking stupid retard ass commies, right? They went against God. They killed their own link to, well, their own royal family that's ruled over their country for years. But like, let me give you a little taste of how fucked up these people are, right? So the story was that the Tsar, right, even though people would say, oh, these guys, they took all our money, they didn't deserve to be so rich, they're so full of themselves and this and that. This is coming from the mouths of like fucking retards and shit. And you hear this a lot, like, eat the rich, and it's just like, it's not new. Like, it is a very mob grown mentality that is meant to radicalize the disenfranchised members of society, if you will, or bad members of society in a lot of instances. And oftentimes you can, lump those sums of people together, and as like dismissive of their humanity as that is, oftentimes that is the case. So the Romanovs, the royal family in Russia, like give gifts to the people or some shit like that. But every time they would do it, the people would just like, try to get those gifts and like trample each other to get them. Now, where have I heard that one before? Oh yeah, that's right. When Israel was handing out those food packages to the Palestinians, did the exact same thing. Most likely that shit happened in Rome. That's what caused the fall of Rome. You're seeing this all around the world, like China. Their power plants, or not power plants, so something to do that needs oil, and then like, yeah, they're refineries or some shit like that. They needed oil, and then without their like, they can't like just turn it off and then turn it back on, right? It takes a while, and it's like takes money, and you have to like replace certain things or some shit like that. And like people are just like walking off the job in the thousands, right? And these people wanted to do deals with tyrants, with like dictators, because they got the cheap gas. They got the cheap gas to like save money, not give money to the imperialist America, and like whatever, enrich their enemies and shit. It's just like fucking stupid shit now. Now their economy's going to fucking hell. Think about, and everyone's talking about, think about all their like their warships and this and that. Yeah, because they need oil to use those warships. Trump's a smart ass guy, man. Trump's a smart ass guy. People like take him for granted, dude. The assassination attempt is more or less what you'd expect from like the pressure of not only these fraudsters, right? So these fraudsters up in California, where this assassin hails from. He comes from California. He's a teacher too. Holy shit! Most likely votes Democrat, obviously, but it's like he yeah, he had like this fantasy which I spoke about, right, in my previous video, Curse of the Moon, where you live in this like fantasy world, and you're seeing this a lot. Like, I don't know, maybe it's like in Fortnite, you could do wrestling moves in Fortnite. I don't know. Maybe you could do a lot of shit in Fortnite. Or you could argue Crimson Desert, or you could argue anything, right? But like, why would you want like attempt like that kind of a wrestling move on a girl is just inhumane. But like you had to have seen it before, in Mortal Kombat, whatever. And this isn't me like being hypercritical of media. This is me like stating the obvious that he has dismissive parents and someone's got to jump in to fill that role. Who's telling him what right from wrong? Who's telling him this? Well, right from wrong is one of those things that you get from these stupid retard ass Disney Marvel movie fuck washes, these fuck fests, these absolute like blockbuster like vacuous brain rotting like it's literal brain rot. Because like what do you think about like meme culture? What do you think about like the current trendy shit, right? That you would a lot of times see on TikTok, YouTube, whatever, right? YouTube Shorts now. It's to deal with this heroicism, this self-made heroicism, how you're going to somehow save the world, or somehow like, oh, me smoking this like ganja, it makes me a bad person or something. And you're just patting yourself on the back, saying, I'm the good guy, that's the bad guy. And then you just like, think about, oh shit, what do good guys have? They have like, weapons. They're like Batman. They have like shit they can put in their belt. Everybody's a fucking Call of Duty fag. Everybody wants to like, chuck grenades and shit. Sure, man. I'm like more of an old timer. I take my time and shit. It's just like in the old games where you're not actually playing a human being, like Descent on the spaceship or Heavy Gear. I'm a Canadian mech. I got like got like skates. It's technically the rollerblades, but whatever. There's skates. Skating around. I got all these weapons and shit. Or mech warrior. I'm an American slash Japanese mech. Oh, look at me. I'm destroying me. I'm like, it's like Godzilla. And then like kids are just like, let's shoot each other. And they're lame. Oh, well, speaking of lame, eh? Like all these violent attacks have been happening, especially recently. And it has like a very common trend. Guns. Where the guns come from? What happened? Well, it seems to me that the cops, who have like all the time in the world, and like have a habit of looking at child porn and shit, even though you can't prove that, it basically is the truth. Like, how would they know where I am and to like flash, their high beams in my eyes if the pedophiles didn't let them, know where I am? Because let's be fair, man. If you guys look at the clubs, especially now, like the Punjabi, the Paki sector, the swaths of guys that would come there to the clubs ain't coming no more. And I think we all know the reason why that is. It's a lot harder to commit SA, as in sexual assault, on women. Everybody's watching their drinks. Everybody's going in large groups. Everybody's asking for each other. Nobody's going to the bathroom alone. Nobody's going anywhere alone, basically. That kind of sucks in like, maybe it'll prevent you from meeting somebody that night sense, but like, what's the point of you taking that chance and then you don't watch your drink? And where'd the fentanyl come from? Who's smuggling in that fentanyl? Oh, them Punjabis are, huh? So back to this Jaskaret Sidhu guy. Like, yo, they want these guys in this country to make themselves feel special about themselves. It's like one of those things where we all know that what he did was beyond fucked up. He killed a bunch of people, right? And it's like an open shut case. And he's saying like, "Oh, I got my own kid here," and it's like, "Yo, but you already got her pregnant like after this shit, man. And you're just trying to like, tug out that sympathy vote. Like, think about it. If it happened 3 years ago, how old's your kid, right? Like 1, 2.5, whatever. Bullshit, man. And we get to all see on display for everyone how not only they get preferential treatment, but preferential protection with your taxpayer money. But you know who doesn't get preferential treatment, even though they're paying a lot of taxpayer money? I used to go to like this orthodont. I'm not orthodonts. What am I saying? Chiropractor, right? And he had like this gigantic ass fucking aquarium, and like, yeah, you know what I mean. Like, for a fact, even though he was, you know, better off than most. He was paying a pretty penny with his taxpayer money, and his doctor's office is like just across the road from this shit. But the Sikhs, they're so much more important to protect. I'm telling you, man. The threat of violence on the Sikhs is so high. You gotta bust out them assault rifles for like, but you know what it's really all about. It's about protecting like the Palestinian protesters and the anti-IRGC protesters, especially the anti-IRGC protesters, because I heard the Persians are like fucking tooting their asses up, just like fucking knocking their teeth out. Rightfully so. You gonna fucking support a regime that's killing my people? I'd be doing the same thing too. You'd be like, yo, you're on the Venezuelan anti-Guyanese like brigade. You're against the independence of Guyana. Oh, I hate you, you Venezuelan, you Maduro supporter. No offense to Venezuela, but like, back in the day, Maduro was like snatching up our gas, man, our oil, our gasolina. And for what? So you're gonna give it to some fucking terrorist dictatorships and you could like fucking so you alone, not the rest of your people, Maduro, just you alone gets to enjoy all this nice shit, you fucking fat ass. I hate dictators, man. Putin, Maduro, all like the Iranian ones are dead. All the Middle Eastern ones. I heard the guy in Dubai is like tripping because no one wants to come to his country anymore. It's like, yo, do you think it's the weather, right? Because I was gonna make like a story about the floods in Dubai. I'm like, I actually don't give a shit. Why should I make a video talking about that? But it's like a lot. Nobody wants to go down there anymore. I'm guessing it's because of all the fucking porta party parties, porta party parties that you're having on the yachts. Not a good look, man. And everyone's just like, depraved and like amoral and shit. But I think this assassination on Trump, it again marks like what really this is all about. And I'm gonna come off and sounding racist by saying this, but I see this as like the cowardice of like the Jews that remained in North America, Europe, Australia, and wherever, instead of going back to Israel to help their people fight. We're paying for that. Not only us, but the Israeli people too. Like they're losing their soldiers to this. And also we're paying for the fact that we basically have anti-American, not only immigrants, but actual born American citizens who very much contemplate the death of not only the American nation, but like Canada's basically gone. Canada's basically gone. I hear they're like doing some next thing about, I don't fucking know anymore. There's this like YouTuber saying that like they're bringing in a bunch of foreign troops with the incentive of giving them permanent residency so they can, vote for another liberal victory and shit. And then sooner or later, you're gonna get what you want. Like everybody's gonna get what they want. And this is what I see in the future. Sorry for the stuttering. We're gonna head towards an El Salvador way of life. Except it's not going to be the happy ending that everybody wants. So we're gonna have these supermax high um stakes, I don't know, high security prisons that house like an unreasonable amount of prisoners. And the entire like population is gonna retard seal clap for this. Because even though you can argue in a country like infested with like so many gangs like El Salvador, that would kind of make sense. But when you apply it to like first world nations, right? Where yes, we do have gangs, yes, we do have like delinquents and criminals and shit, but then you start mixing in like, people from the general population, political dissidents, people who are like, disenfranchised, people with mental illnesses, and then you have like a cooking pot, melting pot, if you will, of sanity. Your sanity just melts, and then you become like just crazy. And you know, if you don't vote a certain way, if you don't possess a certain ethnicity, if you don't like have enough money, you're gonna get tossed aside, and you're gonna be put in these supermax prisons. But you're not gonna have Bukele or a just president behind you know the facilitation and oversight. You're gonna have a dictator who wants to be a real man, but is a snake.